All right, thank you for staying with us. The conversation, as I said earlier, is about the rule of law, democracy, and how government seem to accommodate or throw away the voice of decent criticism, which is an hallmark of democracy because it's government of the people, for the same people, and by the same people. And so, if it's about the people, and even when people in government are saying we are doing our best, we are trying to make sure we do what we have to do, and if it has to do with national security, we will do all we have to do to make sure we have this nation protected against either internal or external aggression, because that's the number one duty of any serious government all over the world. The lives and properties of the people that be the priority, the safety, protection of the people of that country. And so when these things are happening, and then it looks strange to the people because it looks like people that are calling government to power, journalists, people in the media, maybe some members of the opposition, civil society organizations, labor unions, and their leaders, it appears, emphasis on the word appears, that maybe they are the target of the security agencies. But they, in their own explanation, are saying, irrespective of who you are, there is a nation for us to run. We must protect our people. And so the fact that you're an opposition leader, you're a member of the media, the press corps, or wherever you are, if something sinister is found to be in your cupboard, so to speak, we will come for you. We will do our job because Nigeria must survive. But then how are all these things intertwined? How do we marry them so that at least the people will still know the nation, the security agencies, the state is still working for us? And these are some of the issues, especially the arrest, the arbitrary arrest of some journalists in the past. In fact, one Mr. Shoyinka was arrested. Immediately he got in the country, he was behind maybe the desk or, detained. And after some hours or almost a day was released, only for us to hear a few days later that it was a case of a mistaken identity. Really? And I just are saying from the DSS, mistaken identity. These are schoolboy errors, but is it just a facade or is just a crackdown? Do we have a case of crackdown on, dissenting voices in Nigeria? We have been joined this morning by public affairs analyst and a labor enthusiast as well. He's a comrade himself, Mr. Femi Lawson. He joins us virtually this morning. Good morning, comrade. Thank you for joining us. Comrade, if you can hear me, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, all right. All right. Thank you very much. Can you hear me clearly?
Very well.
All right. Yeah. And, let's get to it. With what we are seeing right now and the situation of the town, people, it looks, in fact, some are saying maybe the government of the day doesn't have a skin, to accommodate dissenting opinions or people criticizing them. With what with some of the examples I've given, and even more, what do you think we have in our hands? Will it be an overreach for people that are saying the government of President Tinubu is cracking down on dissenting voices? Will that be true, or is it just an overreach?
Well, thank you once again. What we are currently experiencing is not happening for the first time. Between 1999 and now, we have seen attempts by successive administration in the country to prevent people, particularly media, society, and the trade unions, from taking positions against the successive regime. So it is not the first time we are seeing this. And a lot of times we have also come to realize that some of these actions are merely taken out of the overzealousness of our security agencies, which oftentimes come back, to deny their involvement in some of these rights abuse and, of course, violation of the rights of people who are considered to be opposing the views of the government in Nigeria. So it's not the first time we're witnessing this. Like I've always said, the ultimate power is in the hand of the Nigerian people. and no amount of attempts by government can stop people from airing their view in a democracy.
Mm. All right. So many persons have been wading into this matter to see what is really happening. And the arrest of Joe Ajero um, 2 days ago, at the end of the day, newspapers are reporting this morning that maybe he's in connection with the Britain, that he's wanted, on the wanted list of all the security agencies in Nigeria, maybe has a connection. And the man was supposed to travel to the UK, to attend the Trade Union Congress, I think an international meeting yesterday. But that happened. And then, the labor community rallied around him and were even threatening, to go on an all-out strike if he wasn't released by midnight. A little minute, some minutes after midnight, that was early yesterday, was released. And then Sarah Building as well was invaded. Although we are hearing this morning, the army has said it wasn't an invasion, it was just an investigation. And the director is being wanted, and agents are saying, are there no rules of law, rules of engagement? Have you invited a man or the people you are looking for before and they declined? And some of these things you have said, this is not entirely new, but because of the person and the stature of the president, his part, in setting Nigeria, the party played, in fighting the military, in fighting oppression, dictatorship. The history is there, and Nigerians will say we expected more from a government of a President Bola Tinubu, because he has even touted himself to be the biggest Democrat alive, and this is what we are seeing. So you already made a case again to say maybe the overzealousness, of the security agencies and the operatives, but then the buck stops at his table. Do you sincerely think, really, it's just possibly his handlers, security operatives, or his political associates that are trying to crack down on dissenting voices? Or maybe it should be reining them in at this time? What we are seeing, because it's been like a pattern for the last 2-3 months, consistent pattern rather.
I think it's important to say this. We cannot, while we are committed to defense of the rights of our people, particularly as Nigerians, to express themselves, to associate, or peacefully assemble, as the case may be, against whatever government feels or whatever they feel is wrong with government. We must not also forget that government, particularly the state agencies, have duties to play in ensuring that they safeguard lives and properties and also safeguard this democracy. That is why it may not be totally wrong for security agents to, at one time or the other, conduct this kind of investigation, or interrogation of people, irrespective of how highly placed they are in the society. But one thing that is missing often is the transparency behind these actions of government. Anybody can be involved in any form of crime or suspicious action.
Right.
But what is expected of government, and also whoever has been accused, is to be transparent to the extent that Nigerians are not kept in the dark about the real issues. Let me give you an instance.
Yes, please.
Comrade Joe Ajero was accosted at the airport 3 days ago, taken into custody for a whole day, and later released. But as I speak this morning, I said I'm not aware. I don't think on his own part too, he has been able to let Nigerians know the reason the DSS gave for his arrest. Just about 48 hours ago, we were all here screaming that DSS has invaded Sarah office, the office has been surrounded. But eventually it turned out that only a female personnel of DSS visited the office, on a mission, which they said was not the first time, that they've always had this interactive, relationship with the SERAP and other civil society organizations. And it was at that point that somebody within the office raised an alarm. And before you knew what was happening, it was all over the media, screaming headlines that Sarah office has been invaded, this and that. I don't know how a single personnel would have invaded an office that has so many staff, and personnel working there. So I think we have a duty to transparency and responsible reporting, so that while we are trying to checkmate government, we do not also end up as being responsible for necessarily eating up the polity.
Yeah.
But like I said, we must continue to call government to question whenever we think things are not properly done.
Yeah, interesting, because we are going to go that route as well to say, do you think, in sincerity, now that maybe there is a move, or a clandestine move, or a covert one, or a public or intentional one from some quarter to make this government looks unpopular? Because yes, you have said, in as much we are talking about the rule of law, we are talking about people having their right, a fundamental right to do so many things as the law will allow them to do. The security agencies as well have a right and responsibility from the same constitution to make sure we have a society that is sane and is secure. And in as much we have rights, we have responsibilities as well. So either you're a labor leader, or you're a member of the press, or you are a politician, or you are just a Nigerian, you have a right and you have a responsibility. But with what we are seeing, with what you have just highlighted, that maybe there are some persons, raising unnecessary highbrow, but you have said there is responsibility on behalf of those that have been invited and the security agencies to be transparent about this issue. My question is, in the middle of all this, do you think maybe somewhere, somehow, there is a move or organization or a plan, grand plan, to always deface this administration, or to always make them unpopular or look bad? Or is just life just playing out?
But for me, there will always be attempts, particularly by opposition politicians, to make any government in power unpopular, not only at federal level, even at the various state level. It is the job of politicians to criticize and make their opponent look unpopular. But I think the civil society, the media, and the unions like the labor union should not be seen to be involved in this kind of thing. I know there have been issues, especially about the approach of the leadership of the labor movement, some media organizations, civil society, into challenging this government or every other government that we have had in the past. But this must not be taken beyond reasoning to the extent that we will now be seen as acting like opposition political parties. Criticisms must remain objective, and we have the right to do that, not minding who is the president or the governor. But when that is done, it must be done in such a manner that it does not look like the position of an opposition politician. Because for the opposition politicians, if you build, for instance, a flyover where there was no flyover, the opposition politician would come and tell you that there was no need for a flyover there, or you should have built two. That is the way politicians behave. But as civil society, as media, as labor unions, our approach to government criticism must be objective, so that we are not seen as being used as a tool to bring down any government. For us, we must challenge any government whenever they are doing things that are contrary to the interest of Nigerians, and must not be seen as political. And whatever we are doing must be seen to be transparent, not hiding under the banner of being labor leaders, media, or civil society.
All right, Mr. Lawson, but do you think this administration actually takes on objective criticism in good faith? We have seen Nigerians critique this administration from the position of what they feel as Nigerians. These are just ordinary Nigerians who has got no political party, who are no members rather of no political parties, or probably they may have a political bias. But then the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, would you say that they take on criticism, objective criticism by the people in good faith? Because we have seen handlers of the government come at even ordinary Nigerians who has an opinion, maybe an unpopular opinion about the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Every government is always acting like people should not challenge it. But I think we must agree that our criticisms as Nigerians, even the criticism of those we call ordinary Nigerians on the social media, on the streets, the opinions about one time or the other been taken serious by the government. If you remember, since this administration came on board, there have been 1, 2 instances, if not more, the government policies have been reversed on the basis of the criticism of the ordinary Nigerians. While, of course, it has formed them to some demands or criticisms of Nigerians. So it cannot be said that the government is totally opposed to opposing views, especially when you look at the credential of the president, who is coming from the background of a pro-democracy person. But the duty is not us as Nigerians to expect every government, be it the one headed by a pro-democracy person or not, to take whatever we take, hook, line, and sinker. No, government will always want to find its way to avoid responsibility.
Okay, network issues there, but definitely we would reconnect with Mr. Oluwafemi Lawson so that he can continue with us in this conversation. We're talking about clamping down on dissenting voices, which has been in the public space for a while now. A lot of people calling out the government on what they call a clampdown on institutions. We've had issues with the NLC and also the syrup issue, but Mr. Femi Lawson is saying that that issue was escalated or exaggerated because it's not, it wasn't a raid, it was just an officer from the Secret Service going to the syrup office to have, a conversation with the directors there, and the matter was exaggerated by an officer, and it was called a raid. So, but then we would love to have Mr. Femi Lawson back so that we definitely have more questions for him, so he can react to those questions. Femi, the Vice President Atiku Abubakar talked about the fact that what we are having with the administration of President Bola Tinubu can be likened to the harsh days of the military, saying the things that Nigerians or the CSOs witnessed during the military era, we can say we are witnessing it also in the Tinubu administration. So we learned that Mr. Lawson is back with us. Mr. Lawson.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So can you finish on your thoughts? You were about to land on your thoughts before we had that internet glitch.
Yeah, like I was saying, I said, irrespective of how government feels about the opinion of Nigerians, just remember I said earlier that at some instances, government have been forced to reverse policies on the basis of the criticism, not even of labor or the civil society, but those who call ordinary Nigerians on the streets, on the social media, even under this administration. So I think what is most important is our consistency in calling government to question as a people, irrespective of who is the president or whether the president likes it or the governor likes it or not.
Okay. Now you mentioned that in 1 or 2 cases or more, this administration has reversed some policies in response to the criticism by Nigerians when they told the government of the day that the policy doesn't go down well with them. But then what's happening with this particular policy of fuel subsidy? The people continually have asked the government of the day to do something about it because it is causing hunger. It is causing making the economy to nosedive. The issue of the flotation of the naira. Some people have called for the reversal, but it seems the government has turned deaf ears to that. The reversal of the policies you're talking about, there might just be one or two that the people really frowned at, but this major big one, why do you think the government of the day has continued to turn a deaf ear to it?
Well, I think we may not be doing enough as Nigerians. Remember that, like I said, government will always find its way out of whatever issue we raise as citizens. And sometimes it is not even enough for us to just pick and go back to bed. The insistence of the citizens on the policies of government or on the insistence for change, rather, most times have led to government reversing itself or yielding to positive result. On the issue of subsidy removal, even though there are different views regarding this, about why it could have been of benefit, why some people think the country must continue to. But the way we have acted as Nigerians over this removal of subsidy and the skyrocketing increase in price looks so much like the majority of Nigerians are comfortable. In 2012, when the administration of President Jonathan, increased the price of petroleum and announced the removal of subsidy.
Yeah.
I know that it didn't take us so long as Nigerians before we practically, seized the streets and took over Nigeria and occupied Nigeria, until the government reversed itself. In this country, young people were on the streets for over 20 days to ensure that the notorious police unit called SARS got disbanded. It was not that people woke up and got to the street. For years, for months, young people were on the internet, on the social media, calling for an end to SARS. But when it got to the point that the authorities seems not to be responding, they took to the streets and got results. I think majority of our people are still comfortable with the government policy on this subsidy. And that is
Do
why
you think they are comfortable, or it is the response of the government to issues of protests? We have seen people being picked up, for protesting in the country. In the last 1 year with this particular administration, a lot of people are still behind bars because they went out to protest. And do you think it's about the fact that people are comfortable, or people do not want to get arrested or killed? And
why should anybody be afraid of being arrested? That is where the problem is. Protest is part of democracy everywhere in the world. It is not a Nigerian thing. If a government is saying you should not protest, and as citizens you think it is wrong to protest, then it is your choice. We knew what we suffered on the streets of Lagos, Ibadan, and everywhere, asking the military to vacate power in Nigeria. A lot of us were arrested, a lot of our people were detained. Even under this democracy, under the administration of President Obasanjo, I, as an example, I was in detention for over 1 month for merely writing an article against the government. After that, we have been arrested on a number of times for leading protests. Why are people afraid of being arrested? Government will always arrest people during protests. This is not the first time. But Nigerians have a duty to call government to order, and protest is one of those things that you must do as citizens. You saw what has been happening in Israel. That's why the response of the Israeli government to the attack on Israel by Hamas, even the citizens are out on the street saying that the government is not doing enough. So how do we say people are afraid? If people are afraid, then they can buy petrol at 2,000 naira if it's okay by them. Because the question is, nobody is created to be professional fighters for anybody. What the job you are doing today as journalists, the risk you are putting yourself to is unimaginable. But some people are sitting in the comfort of their bedroom, waiting for you to abuse the government on the TV while they are enjoying their coffee and tea in their room. No, we must all be ready to take government up when our voices are not heard enough. When we hit the street, the government hears our voices.
All right, I mean, that stuck with me, what you said. Nobody is created as a professional fighter for the other person. So does this mean that Nigerians are gradually losing their dogged spirit? Nigerians are gradually losing their fighting spirit. Now people just want to live as the day comes by, irrespective of what it brings, irrespective of what the government of the day throws their way.
That looks like the sad reality.
All right. One would say, does it look like, maybe, I don't want to sound extreme, like we're a conquered people as it stands? Because you talked about the Obasanjo era, the pre-Obasanjo era, the military era, and two questions. Number one, Comrade Lawson, number one, it is, you talked about the 2012 situation that people hit the streets. Some will say because the Jonathan administration allowed it. It was considerate and it was a bit lenient. Maybe it's the charisma of the president in charge then, the Ojota situation, K2, Lagos, everywhere, Occupy Nigeria. People put their household items on the street and they occupied gas, mattresses, furniture. Guys were playing football, occupied the street and nothing was going to move because of the government of the day, because the government of the day allowed it. Some will say the beneficiaries, most of the persons that led those protests, they are the ones in government now, especially the ACN government of that past, the current APC guys, they're the ones there now. And you know what happened the last 1 month when that protest was supposed to happen? The DSS came with intelligence report. Oh, these are people that are planning to hijack the government. They are disgruntled elements. And, some members of the government said, whalers, they call them losers of the last election. They are the ones that are trying to topple the government. Many intelligence reports, many threats that they said at that time. And many Nigerians said, these people, some of you that are now in power, you use this same medium because the government of the day allowed you. Now you are in power, you are threatening. In fact, Mr. President, he was quoted to have said, that people with double passports, that with foreign passports, dual passports, they are the ones planning this, and they are the ones that are trying to topple his government. Now, when you see a government of the day use this kind of language from, these are people that are perceived to be Democrats, they are the ones doing this. What will you have Nigerians do? Because we've seen series of people, that have been arrested. Some of them are still in court. That's number one. And number two, inevitably, do we look like a conquered people, a conquered nation? 1 and 2, sir.
Well, thank you. I think first and foremost, let me start by using a Yoruba adage. An okra tree does not grow beyond the farmer who plants it. There's no matter the height of an okra tree. You can always bend an okra tree to your height, right? Because it could look tall. But the okra tree is very flexible to bend. So it doesn't grow beyond the farmer who wants to harvest the okra on the tree. Nigerians own this country. Nigerians own the government and everything about it. Even sometimes government want to assume that it's the omnipotent. And that is why I always encourage people to listen to programs like your program regularly. I follow you a lot, and I see the grant and the level of education you have provided for our people. See, we have a problem here. A lot of our people don't even know their state, their entitlement, their rights as citizens. Sincerely, a lot of people believe they are tenants or employees of government, even when they have no job under this government. It has always been approach of every administration to make attempts to stifle opposition or dissenting voices. But I want to correct an impression. What happened during Jonathan was not a movement created by the opposition political party. It was not an ACM movement. They may have been sympathetic to the struggle. But I was part and parcel of the same Nigeria group, because my immediate principal, late Comrade Kalumaki, was in charge of the organization with my leader, Pastor Tunde Bakare, and a lot of others who, it was an initiative of the ordinary Nigerians, Barry, Chris, Usman Bak, all of us coming from Kaduna, Bayelsa, Edo, to meet that we need to challenge the status quo. There was no politician in our midst at that time. So it was when the struggle became intense that, the people who you say are now empowered, they began to sympathize and began to associate with us. So it was not their project. That nonetheless, because a lot of people who are in government today are known to have been critics of government in the past, including President Bola Tinubu, it is expected that the government will accept every form of criticism. No government will accept it. It is natural, it is expected of government to be critical of people who want to oppose it. But the truth is that the people with the biggest stake in this project is the Nigerian people. Nigerian people must not surrender their power, their sovereignty, their authority, and their ownership of this democracy and country to any president, governor, whoever in the power. They must always understand that they hold the key to the system. And until they realize that, they will continue to look like a conquered people. No regime can conquer the citizens. If Abacha could not conquer Nigerians, if the military could not conquer us, no civilian president can conquer us as Nigerians. It may look like the generation now is not showing enough commitment for challenging the system. But I believe strongly a time will come that the people will be pushed to the wall. It could be the women, it could be market women, it could be anybody that will lead, the process of challenging whatever is not good that government is doing. But like I said, government will do its job, but in challenging government, it must not be from the point of people who have lost election or want to contest election. No, let it be objective to the extent that you are not tagged as being sponsored by politicians or by a political group.
Yeah, and comrades, two quick ones before Evelyn will call me now. Some have said, some of those voices that were very vocal at that time, you spoke about some eminent individuals, some of them still alive, Pastor Tunde Bakare, yourself, other persons, irrespective of the regions. Some of them have said, how come the voice have been silent, a bit silent, quote unquote silent? It wasn't as vocal. Some of these people were on the street, and now you can barely hear them, or maybe some expressing their opinions on social media, or some media houses, that they were so vocal. And what we had in 2012 is not even as bad as what we have now. Where are these voices, that we champion the cause of the people, where the ordinary Nigerians will know that, okay, now we can join the movement because there are some persons standing in the gap, blowing the trumpets that Nigerians should be the one enjoying at the stand. That's number one. And number two, there is a political dimension, especially from former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. He spoke to the matter and he said, Tinubu's regime extends its repressive grasp, these are his words, to encroach upon Serap. Tinubu and his security apparatus must redirect their favor and intimidation towards the true perpetrators of violence, that is, the terrorists and bandits who are inflicting immeasurable suffering upon the Nigerian people. And he even said, what we have now cannot even be measured with what happened under the military. Two questions. Do you subscribe to the assertion of former Vice President Atiku, and where are these loud voices of the past Why are they silent now?
Well, for the loud voices of the past, I think I unconsciously addressed this in my intro. The truth is that nobody is born to be a professional fighter for anybody. If at that point we took it upon ourselves, people like Pastor Tunde Bakare, Sheikh Sani, Dr. Joe Kildumake, and a lot of us took it upon ourselves to fight a cause. It never meant that we were created as professional fighter for anybody. It is expected truly that as leaders of society, we give direction to the people. But it is in this same country that you are, that people protested EndSARS, EndBank governance, and they were all over the place telling you that no, we have no leader, nobody's our leader. Is that the same generation of people you want anybody to come and lead and give direction? No. This generation has a duty to fight its cause. Even a part of the generation. Before the generation of Bakari, Ika Dumaki, Sheikh Sani and the lines, there was a generation that fought for independence in this country. We didn't ask them to wait now and fight for the military now. There was a generation that fought against the military. Should we have the same generation to come and be fighting civilian dictatorship or civilian administration? No. Every generation must discover its mission. So it is not left for that generation to betray it or fulfill it. The generation of Nigerians that are there now, if they are still waiting for anybody to take them to Ojota or to go and barricade the road, they'll be making a mistake. I personally would not expect a Professor Wole Soyinka to come and lead me to a battle. A man of 90 years. He has done this consistently that I've known for over 40 years or 50 years of his life. But for some people are still blaming Soyinka for not talking, for not leading the protest. No, I will not be part of that.
Right.
Let every generation discover its own mission and lead it. And like I said, the position of VP, former VP Atiku Abubakar, even though as an opposition politician, like I said, they always have reasons to criticize government. But I think he also has a duty to deepen his assessment of situation before coming out to also join the issue. Like I said, I deeply interrogated the setup situation, and what happened was not even what the furor it generated on that day.
All right, Mr. Lawson, we're pressed for time, but then we have seen, the police, the DSS pick up journalists at different points in the last 1 year, maybe because of what they wrote, an article they published, or a particular cause they are leading against this particular government. Do you think in a way this can buttress the point of Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who actually said that the escalating assault on civil society and the media by Bola Tinubu administration is profoundly disturbing, saying the level of oppressive control now imposed surpasses even the harshest days of military dictatorship? Away from the SERAP and the NLC issue, we have had in the past journalists being picked up because of what they wrote, because of a particular course they are leading, maybe on social media, or their help or support to a particular cause.
Any attack or assault on a journalist is an assault on all of us, because the media represents the voice of the ordinary people. People who cannot even speak out, people who don't even have access to the platforms to speak. The media represents the only hope of the common people to hear their voices. So any form of attempt on any journalist in the course of their job remains condemnable, and we must continue to condemn it as Nigerians. Journalists all over the world have always been targets of regimes who are not comfortable with the ability to expose, because the media remains the only institution that can expose even what your religious bodies will not even tell you, despite their so-called commitment to faith and truth. The media must be protected against any form of assault, and that's why I will support any voice or action that stands to protect the freedom of the media. If there's no free press, there will not be democracy. The democracy today is majorly because all our noise, all our agitations were reported by the media. If there was no media, we would not be here today. So any assault on the media remains condemned and stands so.
All right, would like to appreciate you sincerely, Mr. Oluwafemi Lawson, public affairs analyst and civil rights activist. Thank you so much for your time, your takes, your submissions this morning. It's always a pleasure to have you with us on the show.
My pleasure.
All right, have yourself a good day.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the conversation with Mr. or Comrade Oluwafemi Lawson, who has spoken to the issues concerning the clamp down on institution, alleged clamp down on institution by this administration, and also, you know, trying to silence dissenting voices, you know, against this particular administration. But then we hope that the government of the day, especially led by one who is touted by as the biggest Democrat, you know, in the country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, can actually lead democratically and let people see. You know, there is one thing about you leading, and there is another thing about people seeing. When you have done, let people know that you have done. So it's not just about you saying it in your saying you're doing something in your closet. Let it be shown.
People should see it.
Exactly.
Even without you saying it, people should see it.
That you are indeed working for, you know, free press, for the media to do their job as and when due without fear or favor, and that Nigeria can truly be a democratic state that it says it is. That's the show this morning. My name is Evelyn Ohiolei. Thank you for being a part of our world. Of course, Spring Trends come in right after this broadcast, and it's my pleasure to have you on board.
All right, Femi Ojo is my name. You can have a recap of this program on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television and all our various social media handles scrolling on your screen right now. God bless Nigeria. We have rights, and of course, you know you have a responsibility as well. Bye.